Alright guys, so the new season just started, and I thought, why not make a video on the best heroes to use in solo rank to quickly reach Immortal? Every hero I included in this list is really strong in solo queue right now, especially in the current meta. Starting at number 10, we have Martis. Martis is one of the strongest junglers in the current meta because he's basically a fighter-assassin hybrid, which means he can handle turtles and other objectives alone without needing much help from his team. He recently got an adjustment where his ultimate's X mark now properly adds the damage contribution from Sky Piercer, so there's no more hesitation about whether the execute will work or not. Sky Piercer is now a core item for him. He also received early and mid-game base damage buffs, which make him a complete monster in the early game. His second skill is what makes him so strong since it gives 60% damage reduction and full crowd control immunity, making him perfect against heavy CC compositions. However, his weakness is that if he fails to snowball early, he falls off in the late game. He also lacks high burst for securing objectives compared to heroes like Lancelot or Suyu, who can steal turtle more easily. Still, in the right draft, he is definitely an S-tier pick. At number 9, we have Suyu. When he was first released, he was completely broken. But after multiple nerfs, he was barely picked. With recent adjustments like better scaling and lower cooldowns, he feels much better again. He has mobility, strong burst damage that works in both single target and AoE situations, and crowd control from his charged abilities. His jungle clear speed is very fast compared to many junglers, and he's extremely strong in the early game, which means you need to snowball to stay effective. If he gets ahead, he can force objectives before enemies scale. His second skill combined with Retribution makes him very reliable at securing or even stealing Turtle and Lord. You also need to invade enemy buffs to prevent the match from reaching late game since he isn't designed to dominate late game teamfights against grouped enemies, but in fast-paced solo rank games, he really shines. At number 8 is Joy. Honestly, Joy is one of the most underrated junglers right now. If you truly master her, she can counter almost every assassin. Her rhythm-based damage makes her very hard to predict, and her early game presence is insane. She's one of the fastest heroes in the entire game, and with full second skill dashes through jungle creeps, she can cover a huge part of the map quickly. Her farming speed is easily top 3 in the game. If she gets early kills, she snowballs very easily. You should always use her early strength to invade enemy buffs. She does fall off slightly in the late game, but not as hard as Martis or Suyu. If you play perfectly and hit your beats correctly, you can still instantly delete squishy targets even in the late game. The biggest weakness for Joy is heavy crowd control. One stun at the wrong moment can completely shut her down. That's the reason she isn't picked that much, and I don't recommend picking her into heavy CC drafts. At number 7, we have Aamon. Aamon is easily one of the best junglers for solo rank because he offers high carry potential without extremely difficult mechanics. Unlike some assassins who rely fully on their ultimate, Aamon can still pressure enemies with his shard mechanics even when his ultimate is on cooldown. His camouflage passive is very strong since enemies can't see him on the map, and he gains extra movement speed, making it easy to reposition. He's also very easy to snowball with in the early game. When fed, he becomes one of the scariest backline killers in the game. He can dive in, burst a squishy target, and disappear instantly. He's also very strong during Lord and Turtle fights because combining his ultimate burst with Retribution makes securing objectives more reliable. However, he is pretty weak against enemies with lots of AoE damage since they can instantly lock him down. At number 6 is Fredrinn. I don't know if it's just me. Whenever I meet a Fredrinn user, I mostly lose the match. Fredrinn isn't your typical assassin jungler. He doesn't rely on burst damage, but instead thrives in extended fights. His crystal energy allows him to store damage taken and convert it into a massive ultimate. The longer the fight goes, the more dangerous he becomes. He's one of the few heroes who can counter almost all assassins in the game, but in solo rank, he's not always the best option because his kit is designed to soak damage and create space for teammates. In solo queue, you can't always trust teammates to follow up, so sometimes picking a damage assassin is better. However, in trio or 5-man setups, he's an absolute nightmare. Just keep in mind he's slightly weaker in the early game before he gets his core items. At number 5 is Hayabusa. Hayabusa recently received mobility and ultimate nerfs, which pushed him slightly out of the top meta. He can't easily one-shot backline heroes like before, so now he requires much cleaner execution. You need proper shadow placement, good cooldown tracking, and smart target selection. If you're thinking about mastering him, Just know there are easier heroes to climb with right now. However, in experienced hands, he can still solo carry games, which is why he's still picked in MPL as a comfort hero. Honestly, Moonton should slightly buff him. Hayabusa used to be banned every match just 1 to 2 seasons ago, but after his second skill was nerfed so badly, hardly anyone picks him now. At number 4 is Leomord. Leomord is still a solid pick in the jungle. He doesn't require insane mechanics, but he can compete with top-tier junglers. Since he's also a fighter-assassin hybrid, he doesn't rely too much on teammates. Once he uses his ultimate, his teamfight presence becomes very strong. He has solid burst damage for securing objectives, especially if you charge his first skill and combine it with Retribution. He's even being picked in competitive play, which shows how strong he is right now. However, he is weaker without his ultimate. Honestly, he's also going to be my most played jungler this season. If you want a simple yet powerful hero to push rank, Leomord is a great choice. At number 3 is Fanny. We all know how strong Fanny is. Even after multiple nerfs, her mobility is still unmatched. A skilled Fanny can control the map, invade the enemy jungle, and dominate every stage of the game. However, she requires the highest mechanical skill on this list. Energy management, cable accuracy, and map awareness need to be perfect. Without blue buff, she becomes much weaker, but in experienced hands, she can completely take over games. If you watch MPL, you know how Yazuki single-handedly carried games with Fanny. At number 2 is Sun-shin. Sun-shin has always been meta mainly because of his fast farming speed and strong scaling. He has literally everything you need in a decent jungler. He can outfarm almost every assassin in the game and has enough burst damage to secure objectives. To maximize his potential, you need to properly manage his bow and arrow passive. He's one of the most picked junglers in competitive play. His second skill gives a short dash with brief crowd control immunity, which helps with repositioning. If he snowballs early, it becomes extremely hard for enemies to come back. His ultimate provides global vision and damage, forcing enemies to play more carefully. Fast farm, strong scaling, and global impact make him one of the best junglers in the game. Finally, at number 1 is Lancelot. Lancelot is currently one of the strongest junglers in the game. Honestly, it's very close between him and Sun-shin, but I'd give Lancelot a slight edge because of his mobility and burst damage. He's often built with a hybrid fighter setup, which makes him surprisingly tanky while still dealing massive damage thanks to War Axe and his passive stacks. His constant dashes allow him to outplay almost any ability if timed correctly. He's very slippery and strong in all 3 stages of the game. Of course, hard crowd control can punish him, but unlike some high-risk heroes, he still has his ultimate as a backup escape tool. In skilled hands, he's easily one of the best assassins to climb rank this season. That's all for today. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and good luck on your rank push this season.